Imagine for a moment that everything you have been taught about the timeline of human civilization is not just incomplete, but fundamentally flawed. We look at the majestic pyramids of Giza, the towering megaliths of Stonehenge, and the mysterious circles of Göbekli Tepe, and we are told that these represent the dawn of organized society. We are told that before this, for tens of thousands of years, our ancestors were nothing more than simple hunter-gatherers, struggling for survival, incapable of complex thought or monumental engineering. But the Earth itself tells a different story. If we look closely at the scars left by time, a new and startling narrative begins to emerge. Beneath the shifting sands of the Sahara and the crushing depths of the Atlantic Ocean lies the evidence of a lost epoch, a golden age that vanished in a heartbeat. Geology does not lie, and the stones do not forget. When we speak of Atlantis, we are not merely discussing a legend born from the mind of Plato. We're discussing a historical possibility that the academic elite has spent centuries trying to suppress. They dismiss it as a fable, a moral allegory, because the alternative is too terrifying for them to accept. The reality that a global, high-functioning civilization existed more than 12,000 years ago. A civilization that understood the stars, the mathematics of the Earth, and perhaps even technologies that we are only now beginning to rediscover. Consider the Great Sphinx of Giza. For decades, the official narrative has been that it was carved during the reign of Khafra, roughly 4,500 years ago. But look at the body of the monument. Look at the deep, undulating vertical fissures that mark its limestone core. These are not the result of wind or sand erosion. Any geologist worth their salt will tell you that these are the unmistakable hallmarks of precipitation-induced weathering. Massive, torrential rainfall that lasted for centuries. The problem? The Giza Plateau has not seen that kind of sustained rainfall since the end of the last ice age, over 10,000 years ago. This simple geological fact shatters the orthodox timeline. It pushes the origin of the Sphinx back to an era when the Sahara was a lush, green savanna, and it suggests that a master-building culture was active in Egypt long before the first pharaoh ever wore a crown. This brings us to the Younger Dryas, a period of chaotic, cataclysmic climate shifts that occurred between 12,900 and 11,600 years ago. This was not a gradual change. It was a sudden, violent upheaval. Evidence from ice cores and sediment layers across the globe points to a series of massive impacts, likely from a fragmenting comet. These impacts would have triggered immediate, widespread wildfires, followed by a nuclear winter and, most crucially, a rapid melting of the glacial ice sheets. Billions of tons of fresh water poured into the oceans, causing sea levels to rise by hundreds of feet in a matter of weeks. Any coastal civilization, exactly where Plato placed Atlantis, would have been obliterated. They wouldn't have had time to flee. Their cities, their libraries, and their very memory would have been swallowed by the rising tides. What we see today as primitive cultures emerging after this date are not the beginning of progress, but the survivors of a collapse. They were the inheritors of a shattered world, trying to rebuild using the fragments of knowledge that had been saved from the flood. This explains why we find identical astronomical alignments and architectural techniques in cultures separated by vast oceans. The sun temples of the Maya, the ziggurats of Mesopotamia, and the temples of Southeast Asia all share a common blueprint. It is the signature of a shared origin. The obsession with suppressing this truth stems from a fear of the cycle. If we admit that a global civilization could be wiped from the face of the earth in a single night of fire and water, we have to admit that it could happen to us, too. We live in a bubble of false security, believing that our technology makes us invincible. But the inhabitants of Atlantis likely felt the same way. They were masters of their environment until the environment itself turned against them. The ruins they left behind are not just monuments to their greatness, they are warnings meant for us. They encoded their wisdom in the very geometry of their buildings, using the universal language of mathematics and the stars, hoping that one day a future generation would be smart enough to decode the message. We are now that generation. We have the tools, the satellite imagery, and the deep-sea sonar to find what was lost. We are finding anomalies on the ocean floor, rectangular structures off the coast of Bimini, and submerged ruins in the Mediterranean that defy conventional explanation. Every time a new discovery is made that threatens the status quo, it is met with fierce resistance. Independent researchers are mocked, their funding is cut, and their findings are buried in the back pages of obscure journals. But the truth has a way of rising to the surface. The more we learn about the true age of humanity, the more we realize that we are a species with amnesia. We have forgotten our true heritage. We are like orphans searching for our parents, looking at the monumental stones they left behind, and wondering how they could have achieved such feats. We are told they used copper tools and wooden rollers to move stones weighing hundreds of tons, some of which are so perfectly joined that you cannot fit a human hair between them. This is an insult to our intelligence. It is far more likely that they possessed a profound understanding of acoustics, vibration, or some form of energy that we have yet to master. This investigation is about more than just finding a sunken city. It is about reclaiming our identity. It is about understanding that the path of human progress is not a straight line, but a series of peaks and valleys. We are currently at a peak, but the shadows of the past are stretching long across our future. The Younger Dryas cataclysm happened before, and the geological record suggests that these events are cyclical. By looking back, we are looking into a mirror. We are seeing what happens when a civilization becomes too arrogant, too disconnected from the natural order, and too blind to the signs of an impending shift. The legend of Atlantis is the ultimate cautionary tale. It tells us that power is fleeting, and that the earth is the final judge of our worthiness. The report you are hearing now is the result of thousands of hours of cross-referencing geological data with ancient myths from every corner of the globe. From the Epic of Gilgamesh to the legends of the Hopi, the story is the same: the Great Flood, the sky falling, and the few who were chosen to carry the fire of knowledge into the next age. We are the descendants of those survivors. We carry their DNA, and we carry their burden. It is time to stop ignoring the evidence. It is time to look at the Sphinx not as a tourist attraction, but as a silent witness to a history We are only just beginning to understand. The truth is out there, waiting in the darkness of the deep sea and the silence of the desert. We will not stop until the full story is told. We will not be silenced by the gatekeepers of the past. The legacy of Atlantis is our legacy, and it is time to bring it into the light. As we continue this journey, ask yourself, why are we so desperate to believe that we are the first? Why is the idea of an advanced predecessor so threatening? Perhaps it is because it forces us to acknowledge our own fragility. We are not the masters of this planet. We are its guests. And the history of Atlantis proves that the guest list can be changed at any moment. The silence of the oceans is not an absence of evidence. It is a scream that we have been taught to ignore. But the tide is turning. The data is clear. The monuments are waiting. And the truth, no matter how deeply it has been buried, will always find its way home. We are the seekers, the ones who refuse to accept the sanitized version of our past. We are the ones who look at the stars and see not just points of light, but a map of where we came from. Stay focused, stay vigilant. The shadows are moving, and what they reveal will change everything. At Gravity Networks, we don't just follow the official stories. We follow the hard evidence that the textbooks are too afraid to print. We believe the truth belongs to everyone, not just a handful of gatekeepers in lab coats. Join the investigation. Become part of the movement to uncover the forbidden history of our world. Support our independent research by checking the links in the description below or in the pinned comment. Your contribution allows us to continue digging through the lies and bringing the evidence to light. Every coffee, every donation fuels the search for the Hall of Records. Stay curious. Stay skeptical. The truth is rising from the sands, and they can't hide it forever. This is Gravity Networks. The investigation is just beginning.